If you're new to Deception Bytes, hit the like and subscribe button and be sure to hit the bell to be notified of future videos. If you wish to support the channel, the links are in the description below. Now, fasten your seatbelt. Here we go. Okay guys, I'm back and it is Wednesday, February the 20th, and what we're going to be doing tonight is I'm behind, as most of you already know, so we're going to be covering the 19th. It may take 2 videos. I'm pretty sure it will, but let's get started. We have a lot to cover today. All right, let's start with the first one from the 19th, and it is this little oddity. It is an odd little post, I think, and it links to a Twitter account, and the Twitter belongs to James Comey. And let's take a look at that Twitter. I've cut it out just to save a little bit of time. Every time you assault and stereotype a person, you've ripped the social fabric. Every time you see that person deeply and make him or her feel known, you've woven it. David Brooks, 218, New York Times, is right that we all need to be weavers if we are to heal our beloved country. Now, many believe, as I do, that this is a coded message that Comey has sent. It's probably coded, kind of like, you know, my dog has just died, and yet he didn't have a dog. So, yeah, that's how they communicate now, because their communications have been greatly impinged upon by Q. And so they do kind of communicate with one another out in the open. And I believe that that's what's going on here. But let's continue on and see what Q is saying. He says, drop put you on notice. Direction to bunker down. Stop talking or risk being assaulted. A woven, elaborate nest will not save or protect you, nor will the CIA further provide you with actionable intelligence. Cold on the outside, traitor's justice. Q. So as we've seen in the past, usually when he puts a question mark, it's usually a statement. So I think he's saying this drop is putting you on notice. Direction to bunker down, stop talking or risk being assaulted. Now, I don't know if that is what Comey's message is trying to portray, or if Q is sending this message to Comey. I'm a little bit confused here, but the one thing that is certain is Q is telling him the CIA is not going to provide you with any more intelligence. So then he says it's cold on the outside. Yeah, I bet you it is. And he's saying it's a traitor's justice. Q. Now, this seems to be another coded message to his deep state buddies. Now, that speaking about his tweet, Comey's tweet. And here, this is from Disclosure Italia, and this person is D. Oppresso Liber, and I liked this comment, so I included it. Q posts a link to Comey's tweet. He is terrified of these QAnon drops and is once again tweeting in code. He is toast, and Q told him this much. Q's drop caused Comey to begin warning people not to talk. Q saying that Comey telling rank-and-file traitors of cabal not to talk and to bunker down or risk being assaulted. Q telling Comey a bunker won't save him and he can no longer rely on the CIA to provide him with actionable intel. He must be feeling cold and lonely about now. Q reminds him he will suffer a traitor's justice, which, as we know, is hanging. Now, I do believe that that's a good assessment of that tweet. It's a little bit confusing to me because Comey is not directly out and out saying these things, but he is speaking in code, and apparently Q understands better than anyone exactly what he's saying and to whom. All right, now let's go on. And this, we've seen this before. It says, now that Russia collusion is a proven lie, when do trials for treason begin? And I would say fairly soon, but I know that there's a whole lot that needs to happen, especially according to that timeline we looked at in the last video. So there's a lot that still has to happen. And I remember when this Anon posted this on 8chan, and Q responded that he wanted it updated with Brennan. And so it has been updated with Brennan. Q has provided this, but it was originally posted to the 8chan board by an Anon. Okay, and let's go up to the next. And this is the next post. And Q, for the first time, I've never seen him do this, he says topic, taxpayer theft. And he has that in kill brackets, meaning that I believe he means that it's going to stop. They're going to kill taxpayer theft. And that is not the taxpayer is stealing. No, they are stealing the taxpayers' dollars. And they have been for some time now. Literally raping and pillaging our country. Insider versus outsider. Retain control versus lose control. Kennedy was an outsider, assassinated. Reagan was an outsider, assassination attempt. POTUS is an outsider, classification high. Now, I believe what he's saying here is that they've attempted to assassinate POTUS on at least 2 occasions, that per Q, right? We know of at least two occasions where there's been an attempt on his life, possibly more. And that is to remain classified, highly classified, because they can't risk that getting out to the public with the mainstream media the way it is now, because it would be twisted. It would be twisted and downplayed, and no, it's remained classified. We know about it, but we don't have all the particulars about it. But I think that in due time, the rest of the world will find out about it, and they're not going to be happy. Assassinating a president is no small thing, as we all are more than aware of. Now, POTUS is an outsider, we know that, and they have attempted to assassinate him. How much money, cash, was sent by the Fed to Iraq, the Iraq War, during the Iraq War? The cabal started the war and used it as a pretext to strip the Iraqi central bank of billions. That money ended up in the hands of the deep state under the guise of political contributions to their various foundations. Think Clinton Foundation. This was the intention with Iran as well. Money, billions, were transferred from the Federal Reserve on pallets that during the Hussein administration, there was no accountability and no paper trail. POTUS, being an outsider, put an end to the pillaging of taxpayer money. And I believe that is so. So we've got some news articles here that back that up. We're not going to read all of it, but I am going to show you because Q has put them in here. So I think that we should go and take a look at them. Of course, I think he has done that so people can't say, oh, that's not true, that's just whatever. No, he's providing links to the information, which is all open source. How the U.S. sent $12 billion in cash to Iraq and watched it vanish. Special flights brought in tons of banknotes which disappeared into the war zone. The U.S. flew nearly $12 billion in shrink-wrapped $100 bills into Iraq, then distributed the cash with no proper control over who was receiving it and how it was being spent. The staging scale of the biggest transfer of cash in the history of the Federal Reserve has been graphically laid bare by a U.S. congressional committee. In the year after the invasion of Iraq in 2003, nearly 281 million notes weighing 363 tons were sent from New York to Baghdad for disbursement to Iraqi ministers and U.S. contractors. Using C-130 planes, the deliveries took place once or twice a month, with the biggest of $2 billion, 401 million on June 22nd, 2004, 6 days before the handover. Details of the shipments have emerged in a memorandum prepared by the meeting of the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, which is examining Iraqi reconstruction. Its chairman, Henry Waxman, a fierce critic of the war, said the way that the cash had been handled was mind-boggling. The numbers are so large that it doesn't seem possible that they're true, and yet they are. Who in their right mind would send 363 tons of cash into a war zone? Nobody. Nobody with good purpose would do that, because there was no accountability. And of course, that we can just imagine where that money ended up. Some of it in the pockets of people like the Clintons. The memorandum details the casual manner in which the U.S.-led coalition provisional authority dispersed the money, which came from Iraqi oil sales, surplus funds from the UN Oil for Food program, and seized Iraqi assets. One CPA official described an environment awash in $100 bills, the memorandum says. One contractor received $2 million payment in a duffel bag. Stuffed with shrink-wrapped bundles of currency. Auditors discovered the key to a vault was kept in an unsecured backpack. Unimaginable. They also found that $774,300 in cash had been stolen from one division's vault. Cash payments were made from the back of a pickup truck, and cash was stored in unguarded sacks in Iraqi military offices. One official was given $6.75 million in cash and was ordered to spend it in 1 week before the interim Iraqi government took control of Iraqi funds. Wow. I thought I wasn't going to read this, but man, this is pretty compelling, isn't it? The minutes from a May 2004 CPA meeting reveal a single disbursement of $500 million in security funding labeled merely TBT, to be determined, meaning to be determined. The memorandum concludes many of the funds appear to have been lost to corruption and waste. Thousands of ghost employees were receiving paychecks from Iraqi ministers under the CPA's control. Some of the funds could have enriched both criminals and insurgents fighting the United States. And I'm sure it did, of course. According to Stuart Bowen, the Special Inspector General for Iraqi Reconstruction, the $8.8 billion funds to Iraqi ministers were dispersed without assurance the monies were properly used or accounted for. But according to the memorandum, he now believes that the lack of accountability and transparency extended to the entire $20 billion expended by the CPA. To oversee the expenditure, the CPA was supposed to appoint an independent certified public accounting firm. Instead, the CPA hired an obscure accounting firm called North Star Consultants. I've heard that name before. The firm was so small that it reportedly operated out of a private home in San Diego. Mr. Bowen found that the company did not perform a review of internal controls as required by the contract. Oh, surprise. However, evidence before the committee suggested the senior American officials were unconcerned about the situation because the billions were not U.S. taxpayers' money. Paul Bremer, the head of the CPA, reminded the committee that the subject of today's hearing is the CPA's use and accounting for funds belonging to the Iraqi people held in the so-called Development Fund for Iraq. These are not appropriated American funds. They are Iraqi funds. I believe the CPA discharged its responsibilities to manage these Iraqi funds on behalf of the Iraqi people. Bremer's financial advisor, Admiral David Oliver, is even more direct. The memorandum quotes an interview with the BBC World Service. Asked what had happened to the $8.8 billion, he replied, "I have no idea. I can't tell you whether or not the money went to the right things or didn't, nor do I actually think it's important." Okay. Question. But the fact is, billions of dollars have disappeared without a trace. Kind of like wasn't it $11 trillion that they misplaced or couldn't account for? And then when the plane hit the Pentagon, if indeed it was a plane, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, then it just happened to hit the office that, would have accounted for that. Yeah, right. Okay. Well, it's the same sort of thing. Well, these billions of dollars disappeared without a trace, and I don't think it's important. Okay. Kind of like It's kind of like Hillary. At this point, what difference does it make? Well, it makes a hell of a lot of difference. Pardon my French. Mr. Bremer, whose disbanding of the Iraqi armed forces and Ba'athification program have been blamed as contributing to the present chaos, told the committee, I acknowledge that I made mistakes and that with the benefit of hindsight, I would have made some decisions differently. Oh, you think? My gosh. You kidding me? That doesn't cut it. Oh yeah, hindsight's 20/20. I would have done things differently. Our top priority was to get the economy moving again. The first step was to get money into the hands of the Iraqi people as quickly as possible. Millions of civil service families have not received salaries or pensions for months, and there was no effective banking system. It was not a perfect solution, he said. Delay might well have exacerbated the nascent insurgency and thereby increased the danger to Americans. Oh, really? You think so? Having billions flow into a country that's war-torn, you don't think that's going to end up in the hands of the insurgents? Of course it is. These people, not too swift, are they? Okay, let's go back. Now, that is that one, and here is another one by Reuters. We're not going to send this because it's we're not going to read this because it's probably much the same, but let's take a boo at it. Anyway, well, if it will let us here. There we go. U.S. sent pallets of cash to Baghdad. Washington, the U.S. Federal Reserve sent record payouts of more than $4 billion in cash. Well, the last one said it was even more than that, to Baghdad on giant pallets aboard military planes shortly before the United States gave control back to the Iraqis. So this is much the same, and I'm not going to read it because we've already, looked at one in depth. Let's go back. Let's see what this is right here. This is from CNBC. Probably much the same. New York Fed's 40 billion Iraqi money trail. 40 billion here. It's been called the largest airborne transfer of currency in the history of the world, but finding out what happened to all the money involved has become one of the biggest financial mysteries of all times. So again, I'm not going to read all this because we have already looked at this and Q has pulled out and told us what we need to know here. But I did want to show you, my gosh, my kitten just used the litter box, and I don't know what he's been eating, but I think something died in him. My gosh, I'm so glad you can't smell that. It is revolting. All right, let's continue. How much money, cash, was confiscated from the Iraq Central Bank? Well, billions, right? So, yeah. How much, okay, and here, let's look at this. Well, at least billions were transferred. I'm not sure if all of that came from the Iraqi bank, but there were millions, literally millions, stolen from, misappropriated from the Iraqi Central Bank. Saddam Hussein's $1 billion bank heist. Okay, well, maybe it is a $1 billion bank heist. When America-led forces first entered Baghdad in early April 2003, looters had already hit the Central Bank of Iraq, the fortress-like structure housing much of the nation's treasure, including its foreign currency reserves. Troops found burst pipes and blazing fires, but the looters had been unable to penetrate the bank's main vault or access its deposits. It turned out, however, that someone had already made a hefty withdrawal from the building to the tune of around $1 billion, easily making this the largest bank heist in history. At about 4 a.m. on March 18th, the day before American cruise missiles began to rain down on the Iraqi capital, 3 large trucks pulled up to the central bank, and for several hours a steady stream of metal boxes filled with some $900 million in U.S. $100 bills and $100 million in euros were loaded onto the waiting vehicles. The heist didn't require guns or explosives, just a handwritten note handed to the bank's governor insisting that the extraordinary measure was necessary to prevent the money from falling into foreign hands. The man delivering the signed note was Qasem Hussein, the head of Iraqi security forces and the signatory of the note, his father and soon-to-be deposed Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein. But despite Saddam's best efforts, the truckloads of cash did eventually fall into foreign hands, perhaps even your own. Interesting. Very, very interesting. In some ways, Saddam's epic theft continues to this day. Let me see here. Let me just take a quick look at this. It was not surprising that when push came to a cruise missile shove, Saddam felt he could treat his country's cash reserves as his own private piggy bank. The megalomaniac had consolidated his power and surrounded himself with yes men to such a degree that nobody dared challenge him. So when Saddam, who had wrongly assumed that the Americans would never invade Iraq, made the last-minute demand for $1 billion, with no one at the central bank requested a legitimate financial rationale for the withdrawal. When you get an order from Saddam Hussein, you do not discuss it, an unidentified Iraqi official with knowledge of the heist told the New York Times. Do you know why Saddam didn't think that Iraq would be invaded? Do you know why? Because he was a CIA asset. Oh, yes, he was. We have been lied to about that for a very, very long time. I know that as a fact. Yes, I do. All right. When U.S. officials learned that the trucks had pulled away from the central bank with a quarter of the bank's hard currency reserves, they feared the funds would be used to finance the insurgency. When $650 million turned up behind a false wall of the palace belonging to Saddam's Hun, Uday, some officials speculated it must have come from the central bank. It turned out to be Uday's own stash. That's a weird name, isn't it? Uday. You gotta hate somebody to call them that. Now, I realize the names there are different. But anyway, so had Saddam managed to make $1 billion vanish into the dusty Baghdad air? Not quite. As with the weapons of mass destruction and his own grizzled body, which turned up in a mud shack 8 months later, the dictator had not proved particularly adept at hiding things, even those he did possess. And as author James Risen chronicles in Pay Any Price, even before the U.S. had learned of Saddam's bank heist, American troops had discovered hundreds of aluminum boxes, each containing about $4 million in $100 bills at one of Saddam's palaces. The money had been secretly flown to Kuwait, where military personnel were busy counting it. When John Taylor, the U.S. Treasury Department's Undersecretary for International Affairs, learned of the money, he pressed top administration officials in the Situation Room to return the funds to where they rightfully belonged at the central bank. But the White House and Pentagon decided to keep the money and have the newly created Coalition Provisional Authority distribute it to military commanders on the ground to use as they saw fit. And how do you think they would see fit to use it? Over the next few years, the $100 bills were doled out rather indiscriminately, and Saddam's ill-gotten gains, along with billions of dollars of shrink-wrapped cash the U.S. planes flew into Iraq, became one of American soldiers' greatest temptations. The money quickly began to disappear into the rucksacks and footlockers of the officers and enlisted personnel who had access to it, Risen writes. Some was mailed home to wives and girlfriends. The stealing in Iraq reached epic proportions. Soon, pieces of Saddam's stash started turning up in places like Yuma, Arizona, where the FBI found 91 deposits totaling more than $440,000 made by Major Mark Richard Fuller, a Marine assigned to count cash in Fallujah. Bad move. Army Captain Michael Nguyen, I can never pronounce that last name. It's I know it's a very popular last name, but it's hard to pronounce. In charge of dispensing money in Anbar province, made close to $700,000 disappear, drawing suspicions when he paid cash for a Hummer and a BMW after returning home to Oregon. All told, around 35 U.S. service members were convicted of such theft between 2004 and 2008, and according to Risen, the biggest thieves have been far more elusive. So, brand new Hummers for American soldiers may not have been what Saddam had imagined when he sought to keep Iraqi's currency reserves out of foreign hands, but most of the Iraqi dictator's pilfered stash undoubtedly remains in circulation. In some ways, Saddam's epic theft continues to this day from Yuma to Basra, proving yet again that you don't necessarily need a gun to rob a bank or a mask to participate in the plunder. All right, well, that was an interesting article, so I wanted to read that. And let's go back here. How much money, cash, was confiscated from the Iraq Central Bank? Well, according to that article, it was $1 billion. Now, let's just take a look at this. It's probably much the same, and okay, we just looked at that. I don't know why they listed it twice, but they did. So let's go back. All right. Example, not intended for public awareness. All right. So this is not intended for public awareness. We are going to go to this link that he has provided us. U.S. paid Iran $1.3 billion 2 days after a $400 million cash transfer. So this is Iran. Administration silent on how $1.3 billion was delivered.
Another big story. We know.
Let's see here. Washington, the Obama administration said Wednesday it paid $1.3 billion in interest to Iran in January to resolve a decades-old dispute over an undelivered military sale 2 days after allowing $400 million in cash to fly to Tehran. State Department spokeswoman Elizabeth Trudeau says, I wonder if she's any relation to, the infamous Trudeau, soy boy, says the U.S. couldn't say more about the January 19th payment because of diplomatic sensitivities. They involved 13 separate payments of $99 million and final payment of about $10 million. There was no explanation for the Treasury Department keeping the individual transactions under $100 million. Well, of course there was. They didn't want it traced. But anyway, we already are well aware of what went on with that because we've looked at it many, many times. So I'm going to go back and we'll see what Q has to say here. Now, if it worked in Iraq, why not replicate it in Iran? That's exactly what they were trying to do. How much money, cash, was sent to Iran? A whole lot. And it varies. But what did this one say? How much was spent? 1 to 3 billion after 400 million cash transfer. It's a lot of money. A lot. Who controls the distribution of funds? We don't know. Who accounts for the funds? We don't know. No one that we know. There is no successful accounting for the funds. There is no one directly controlling the distribution. Who has access to the funds? Don't know. We don't even know who has access to it. Who really has access to the funds? The deep state. That's who. That's who. Do funds return in the form of political donations? Absolutely they do. Absolutely. Do funds return in the form of massive donations to foundations and or institutes, like maybe the McCain Institute or the Clinton Foundation? The Obamas have a foundation. I think most of these guys do. So, do funds return in the form of offshore bank accounts for future payments, payoffs? Replicate, environment, green, aid, assist. I'm not exactly sure what he means by replicate, environment, green, aid, assist. No honest control in place, no checks and balances in place, no safeguards in place, threat of an outsider becoming president. Yeah. Loss of control. Yeah, that's what the big deal is. They've lost control. Trillions of dollars at stake. Now we have this YouTube video and let's take a look because I'm not sure what it is or if I can play it even. Can't remember.
Our movement.
That is the Our Movement one. We have seen this and seen this. If you want to find this, if you haven't viewed this, you need to. And you can find it on YouTube under this video, Will Get Donald Trump Elected. It is definitely something to see at least once. I've seen it many, many, many more times than once and worth it every time. All right, but I can't play it because the music is copyrighted. Sorry, but It's not my decision. Okay, trillions of dollars at stake, controlled by group of special interests. Yes. Illusion of democracy. Yes, but just an illusion. Welcome to the real world. We cannot afford to lose this rare opportunity to right the wrongs. We, the people, must reclaim what is rightfully ours. We must rise. We must fight. God bless the United States of America. Q. And now we see some of the things that are at stake. They tried to do the exact same thing to Iran that they did to Iraq and just literally rape and pillage the people financially and in every other way. Yeah. Okay. Let's go up to the next one. And this one says, thank you, Patriot. Q. Now, let me go see what this is. Not sure if I can play it or not. I can't remember what it is.
What's up, everybody? Tonight, I will be given a complete breakdown.
Now, again, this is 29 minutes long, and I'm not going to play a video that is 29 minutes long, but what I will do is link to it in the description. So in the description, there will be a link to this video. And it is, QAnon is 100% coming from the Trump administration. Now, QAnon has seen this and approved of it, so obviously it's something that we should watch. All right, so it'll be in the link in the description, and let's keep motoring on. Q says, thank you, Patriot. Q. And we're up to this one. And it's got a link to a Twitter account, which I have cut out just to save us a little bit of time. So let's take a look at that first. It says, new, exclusive. Trump administration launches global campaign to end the criminalization of homosexuality in dozens of nations where it's still illegal to be gay, U.S. officials tell NBC News. A bid aimed in part at denouncing Iran over its human rights record, because there, people have been killed for being gay and thrown off of rooftops and whatever. So certainly, I may not agree with the lifestyle, but I certainly don't agree that they should be mistreated in any way at all, ever. All right. Now, Q says, but fake news pushes the narrative that POTUS is, what? Homophobic, racist. He's a white supremacist. Isn't that what they're all saying? So, if he is so racist and homophobic and everything, then why is he launching a global campaign to end the criminalization of homosexuality? I don't know. It's a good question. But even the whole narrative about him being racist, I don't see that. Now, I'm not black. I'm not, Chinese, whatever. I don't know. I mean, I don't see anything with my eyes that I think looks racist, but maybe people see it differently. However, there are African Americans turning away from the Democrat Party in record numbers. So I don't think they mustn't think he's racist. Don't know. I don't think he is, personally. I've never seen evidence of that. And I do watch because you go back in time even, he's been honored by the black community. I don't understand why all of a sudden he's president and he's racist. Anyway, Q is telling us, start from the beginning. Small sampling of proofs. Patriots in control. You are the news now. Q. Now, this is a request. He's putting in a request and he's saying, I want you to start from the beginning. He's directing the Anons to probably make a graphic and start from the beginning and use a small sampling of proofs. because he's saying you are the news now. You've got to get this out. You've got to push this out, right? Because nobody else is doing it. We've got to do it. We're the news now. We sure are. Okay. Now, unfortunately, this is another one that I can't play for you, but it shows the awesome power of our military. I'm going to have this in the link, or in the description for you. The link to both of these videos will be there. And no, I won't forget. So they will be there. I'm not able to play this as well, but it's interesting because in this, Q references this Anon, who says, in control of what? Nothing. That's what. Q responds with this video, which shows the awesome majesty and power of the United States military. And it's quite awesome. I would recommend that you watch it if you can, and the link will be in the description. Q responds with that video and says, are you ready, Shill? Survival of the fittest. Q. Yeah. Q knows how to put shills in their place, just like POTUS. And we go to the next one, and we have this picture. And I love this picture. I really love this picture. Huge crowd of people for the inauguration, which of course was not shown on the news. They made it seem like there was a very paltry crowd there when there really was not. And they do that. They do the same thing all the time, trying to make it look like POTUS is not as popular as he truly is. But Q posted this picture, which we've seen before, and he says, we are Q. We are Q. All right. And we've got another link to a YouTube video, and I can't remember what this is, so let me go out and see if it's anything I can play for you. I hope it is. But it's nonsensical to play really long videos. It's just when you could go and do it yourself. And it's not fair to the video creator either. So that's why.
Joe, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Great to have you back with us. You know, this 60 Minutes interview with Deputy Director, FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, former, since fired, of course, aired last night. And it was kind of, you know, it retreaded a lot of things that we knew, but it really, I think, expressed for the American public in clear detail that you had a real effort inside the FBI and the Justice Department to get rid of, to take out the President of the United States. That was my takeaway. What was yours?
Well, since July 5th, 2016, when James Comey illegally exonerated Hillary Clinton, it has been obvious that the Obama FBI and Justice Department were corrupt. What you saw last night on 60 Minutes, coupled with Mr. McCabe's new book, was a signed confession that they...
And that's true. What it essentially was a signed confession. Now, I'm not going to play all this. Again, it's 14 minutes and 46 seconds. So I'm going to link to it in the description, all three of these videos. And it's definitely worth listening to. It's just insight into the interview that McCabe gave. And it's good insight. So I do think that it's worth watching. I just don't want to. First of all, you know, we're sitting here for 15 minutes listening to this, and it's not fair to whoever put this video out there, number one, and number two, you know, it doesn't make sense to have a video looking at a video. All right, so if it's short, I play it, but that's a little bit on the lengthy side. Let's go back. And I do promise you that I will leave these in the description. Okay, let's go on to the next one. And we have this. Yes, we do. We have actually this. This is the next one. And it links to Sarah Carter's Twitter page. So let's take a look at that first. And she says, exclusive. 1 year later, the president ordered ODNI and NSA to do it more than a year ago. We have yet to see that implemented. Representative Nunes tells me ODNI and NSA impede lawmakers' review of Obama administration unmasking requests. And it says ODNI and NSA impede lawmakers' review of Obama administration unmasking request. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence and the National Security Administration still have not granted access to Republican lawmakers to review. All right, now let's see what Q has to say. He says, discretion must be applied when dealing with matters of national security / sensitive ongoing investigations. New info released to date was necessary in order to refute the fake news narrative and provide the public with a taste of the truth, i.e., future events. Confirmation sources, House, that you gain critical confirmed sources, House, that you gain critical from is simply one of many vehicles used by design. There seems to be something missing in there. Controlled at the top. It's controlled at the top, and that is why there are no leaks for this reason. So there's a reason why it hasn't been released, because discretion has to be applied. They're dealing with matters of national security and sensitive ongoing investigations. That makes sense, right? Now, let's take a look. I just want to make sure that we have a full understanding of this. That's not it. Here is the actual article, which we are not going to read in full, but we are going to look at. Okay, and the Office of the, okay, so we've looked at that. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence and National Security Agency still have not granted access to Republican lawmakers to review hundreds of unmasking requests made on Americans by senior Obama administration officials. Sarah Carter has learned. Despite an order from President Trump more than a year ago, Ranking Member Devin Nunes on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence said his committee has been stymied in its investigation into the unmasking requests that rocked Washington, D.C. when discovered in 2017. The ODNI and NSA were ordered by President Trump to make available the highly classified documents for congressional review. In order to make those classified documents available, the ODNI needed to set up a secured repository for lawmakers on the committee to review the documents, added Nunes. Ordinarily, American names are redacted or minimized by the NSA before being shared with outside intelligence sources. The names of Americans in these communications with foreign persons are considered highly classified and are rarely unmasked. However, it was discovered that many senior officials in the Obama administration unmasked more frequently than previous administration. In some cases, the names were unmasked. In other cases, they were specific enough that the American's identity was easily ascertained, intelligence sources told the reporter. The NSA and ODNI were put in safeguards, a repository, so we could go and review the documents. They have yet to do it, says Nunes. The president ordered them to do it more than a year ago. We have yet to see that implemented. So I'm not going to read any more of that, but that is interesting. So I would assume that Q is bringing it up because it will be happening very shortly. That's at least what I believe. And Q, in reference to this, says, well, he explains it, that discretion needs to be applied and so forth. He said, controlled at the top, no leaks for this reason. All right, let's go on. Okay, remember I said it seems like there's something missing here. Q corrected it in the next one. Smart guy, that Q. Well, I know it's more than one person, but then there could be women involved in the Q. I don't know, in Q. Here is, he's referencing it, and he says, insert info between critical and from on the move, Q. And he lets us know that because a lot of times we think that omissions or additions or misspellings are on purpose because Q has told us that. But when it's not, when it's an error, he lets us know. So critical info from is simply one of many vehicles. Okay, we got it. Let's go on. No, really, let me see how much we have left here, because I may split this here, and I may not. So let me just see what we have left here. Not that much, really. I think we can do it. Let's push. Push. It's like giving birth. Not that I would know. I've never given birth. Alrighty. Okay, well, let's go to the next one, which I believe it's this one right here. It is. Okay, I'm getting tired, as you can probably imagine, but nothing's too good for you guys. I'm going to stay. I'm going to get the job done. I doubt I'll be able to get to the 20th. The ones from today, I'm going to have to hit those first thing tomorrow. So there you go. All right, the declassification of all requested documents plus more will occur. Okay, so we have this from Q. The declassification will occur. This is not a game. Do not let personal emotion, desires, as in do it now, what is taking so long, now, take over. Because we know we all have those emotions, all of us. And if you're saying that you don't, you're probably lying, or you're just apathetic. Because any of us that have been following this are like, okay, make it happen already. Yeah, we're all a little bit weary. We want to see, now that we've discovered everything that's been going on, it's like, okay, yeah, now we want justice. So, but it is going to happen. It is moving forward, and Q is telling us, don't let your personal and emotional desires get the best of you. It's going to happen. Logical thinking and strategy should always be applied. Game theory. We all want to see equal justice under the law. New threats, investigations by Southern District, New York, Adam Schiff, Maxine Waters, in an effort to delay, prevent, release, insurance extension, will fail. So all these people, like the Southern District of New York, Adam Schiff, Maxine Waters, impeach 45. Impeach 45. Actually, she has this little downturn of the mouth too, so let me do impeach 45. Yeah, that's all she says. Impeach 45. It's all going to fail. All that's going to fail. So we don't have to worry about it. And Q says transparency is the only way forward. Define the following. Treason. I think we all know what that means. Sedition. I think we all know what that means. Subversion. I think we all know what that means. Conspiracy to commit. I think we all know what that means. Do you understand and fully appreciate the gravity of the situation? Well, probably we don't. I think we do. But I think unless we had all of the information, we don't really, we can appreciate the gravity, but probably not as much as, say, POTUS or Q does. Do you understand and fully appreciate what POTUS endures each and every single day? I can't imagine. I'd have had a breakdown by now. Probably most of us would have. If we had that many people speaking hatred towards us for no reason, not anything that we've done. In fact, if you were out there and you were doing all these good things and all anybody could say about you was negative, wouldn't you just feel like giving up? I would. I think it's amazing that he hasn't broken down, that his health hasn't deteriorated. I don't know how he's doing it, quite frankly. Probably prayer. It's probably the prayers that are holding him up, because it's almost supernatural, if you ask me. I don't know how anybody could endure that. Really. He loves this country. He loves you. We must stand together in this fight. There is evil in this world. There is darkness in this world. There are those in power who wish to control, enslave you. Well, isn't that the truth? I've recognized that more than ever before in the last year. To keep you sedated, to keep you unaware, to keep you blind. This will be on our timetable, and we will deliver transparency and prosecution. There is simply no other way except one. Now, that's weird, isn't it? There's no other way except one. I guess the one that he's describing. How do you take that? How do you take that except one? I'd like to know. No, really, I would. Seriously. Yeah, I care about what you guys think, and a lot of times you guys have really good comments, like extraordinary comments. And sometimes your comments just plain make me laugh, and that's good too, because I need to laugh too. We all need to laugh. All right, now he says country versus county. Error made. Always on the move. Q. And I probably read it as country, not county. So I think we're okay here. But there was a mistake. And Q has let us know that it was a mistake. Country versus county. Which makes a whole lot more sense, doesn't it? And let's go on to the next one. And it's this. And Q is referencing an earlier post of his. And in this post, remember when Q, we've seen this before. Obviously, we saw it on September 15th, and he showed us Executive Order 13526. And it was section 1.7. And it tells you when you can classify information. Classification, prohibitions, and limitations. A. In no case shall information be classified, continue to be maintained as classified, or fail to be classified in order to 1. Conceal violations of the law, inefficiency, or administrative error. Prevent embarrassment to a person, organization, or agency. Restrain competition, or prevent or delay the release of information that does not require protection in the interest of national security. Q. And we know that the things that were classified did not comply with this. Did not. And in some cases, it was classified in order to conceal a violation of law. So, yeah. Yeah, very interesting. So, you don't think that they're going to be prosecuted even for that? Classifying things that should not have been classified according to Executive Order 13526? Oh, I think they are. I think they're going to be answering a whole lot of questions and paying the consequences. And let's go up to the next one. We are getting to the end. No, really, we are. And this Q has put this in there. It is September 17th for immediate release. It is from the Office of the Press Secretary, and it's a statement from the Press Secretary. We're going to read that in a moment. Well, actually, since he put it first, let's go take a look at it. It's a little bit bigger here. At the request of a number of committees of Congress and for reasons of transparency, the President has directed the Office of the Director of National Intelligence and the Department of Justice, including the FBI, to provide for the immediate declassification of the following materials. 1. Pages 10 to 12 and 17 to 34 of the June 2017 application to the FISA court in the matter of Carter W. Page. 2. All FBI reports of interviews with Bruce G. Orr, prepared in connection with the Russia investigation. And 3. All FBI reports of interviews prepared in connection with all Carter Page FISA applications. In addition, President Donald J. Trump has directed the Department of Justice, including the FBI, to publicly release all text messages relating to the Russia investigation without redaction of James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, and Bruce Orr. Ow. Yeah. It's going to be a little painful for them, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Sure is. And underneath, Q puts 2 tweets by Donald J. Trump, and we're going to read those. Has been asked, okay, Donald J. Trump has been asked to review these documents on an expedited basis. I believe he will move quickly on this and hopefully other things which he is looking at. In the end, I can always declassify it if it proves necessary. Speed is very important to me and everyone. And beneath, he says, I met with the DOJ concerning the declassification of various unredacted documents. They agreed to release them, but stated that so doing may have perceived negative impact on the Russia probe. Also, key allies called to ask not to release. Therefore, the Inspector General, ... And underneath, Q tells us what's going on. Review time. They're being reviewed. Review time, Q. So this is good news, very good news. And he's saying the declassification will occur. Okay, I love that. And that he says review time. And I love this even more. Let's look at this. I hereby demand, and will do so officially tomorrow, that the Department of Justice look into whether or not the FBI or not the FBI/DOJ infiltrated or surveilled the Trump campaign for political purposes, and if any such demands or requests were made by people within the Obama administration. Wow, that was on May 20th, but really that could have been just written today because that's what we're dealing with today. And underneath, gotta love this. Here is, according to Politico, I hereby demand a second investigation after Schumer of Pelosi for her close ties to Russia and lying about it. Boom. And underneath, Q says, review time. Q. So is he telling us that these already have been completed and they're being reviewed? That's how I would read this. If you read it another way, let me know below. But here she is. Here's a picture of her. And photo contradicts Pelosi's statement about not meeting Kislik. The Democratic House leader sat with the Russian ambassador and other officials in 2010. She's lying. That shouldn't surprise us. Does it surprise you? Doesn't surprise me. Okay. And here, now I'm not sure, who is this referencing? It says my thoughts and prayers, 527. That's 237. I'm not sure. I might have to go back to the actual board to find out who he's talking to here. He says, thoughts and prayers, may you be comforted by the outpouring of love surrounding you. Q. Not exactly sure who that is referencing there. But I will try to find out. I don't want to do it now because if I go over to the Q board, I'm going to have to go through the, to find it. And it's not really that important. It's not like a critical piece of information that we need. Okay, now the next one is this graphic. Very well done. And it was taken from the webpage of GRRR Graphics. And it's a graphic by Ben Garrison, who is extremely talented and has done a lot of Trump-related, swamp-related graphics. This one's awesome. It says Gulliver's President. He's Gulliver's Travel, where the giant's being held down with ropes, and that's what we see here. We see various people. There's Comey, and it's hard to see that. Pelosi, there's Pelosi taking off his shoe, and Schumer, and there's someone with a pyramid on their head, and Schiff, of course, and there's Occasional Cortex, CNN, all these people, and there's Trump, and he is pressing the emergency buzzer, which is sounding and scaring all these people off, and at the top here, which you can't really see, is a Q. So interesting. It's a go, and there's Maxine Waters, of course. Mueller, is over here. So we've got Rosenstein, Obama. Yeah. I wonder where Hillary is. Who knows? Anyway, okay. So let's go up here. And it's interesting because this anon, Q actually included this. And then this anon says he needs to be invited to the White House. Q. So this anon is directing this to Q, saying that Ben Garrison needs to be needs to be invited to the White House because he's done so many wonderful graphics about the president and about this whole scenario that we're facing right now with the Great Awakening and draining the swamp and everything. And interestingly enough, Q says all he needs to do is ask. Q. So I wonder if we're going to see that because, I would assume that Ben Garrison would be flattered by an invitation to the White House, and Q's just saying all he needs to do is ask. She'll be allowed in. Awesome. I think that's really incredible. Now, this is just a close-up of the emergency that he's pressing here, and this anon made reference to this because at the top there, which you can't really see in the graphic that we just looked at, but this is a blown up picture and it has a Q on it. And this anon says, such a lovely Q too. And Q responds by acknowledging and saying, yep, acknowledged. So I think that's pretty cool. And interestingly enough, he references this Twitter account, and I've cut it out just to save us a little bit of time. It says, watching NCIS New Orleans, they are talking about Q. Now, I believe somebody sent me on Twitter a thing that had a character in, I believe it was NCIS, receiving a new thing for his manual typewriter, and it was a Q. But inside of the box that the Q came in, it said believe. And I thought that was very, very interesting that this stuff is seeping into, I mean, that's not anything negative. I think that would be positive, a positive message. So it's just interesting, isn't it? I think. And then Q beneath says, filters picking up many references tonight. Desperate to sway opinion? Q. Well, I don't think, now, unless I'm referring to something totally different than what this is, this was not negative. So I'm a little bit perplexed as to what Q is talking about here because he says filters picking up many references tonight. That would have been last night, February the 19th. Desperate to sway opinion. Now, I would think that the other side would be desperate to sway opinion. So I'm going to have to look into this whole NCIS New Orleans thing because somebody did send me something, but I'm not sure exactly if it was this because, as I said, I've taken the last 2 days off. I really, really needed it to recuperate and regroup and just kind of refresh my mind and my spirit. So I've needed that, and I've kind of been out of the loop a little bit. But I'm getting up to speed very quickly, so I will I will look into that. And tomorrow I will cover the 20th, which is today, and I will cover any posts that come up tomorrow. So that is coming up tomorrow. And at some point, I'd like to do a Q-related news. If I have time tomorrow, I would like to, because it's piling up. And some of it is quite pertinent and quite interesting. So I would like to get to that as well. Now, I'm going to stop here, and that brings us up to today. So we're not as far behind, but of course, once tomorrow comes, we'll be a little bit behind again. And I do apologize, but it could not be helped at this point. So we'll get caught up quickly, and hopefully we'll stay caught up. Q is dropping things daily, so it's a lot to keep up with, but hey, it's interesting. And I think that we're all kind of committed to this process at this point. So there you go. I hope you guys have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your comments. Stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, and have a wonderful night's sleep. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Good night.